Okay, so Foves has worked on thousands of PCs for Tarkov, and they said typically updating to the latest is fine for Nvidia drivers, but they do recommend to at least test it for performance if you're like super, trying to min-max performance, and they recommend 496.xx for Tarkov. Okay, so your Nvidia control panel, specifically your Manage 3D Settings tab, is the most important for Tarkov performance, even over the in-game settings to an extent. So you want to go to Program Settings here, make sure you're not in Global, Escape from Tarkov, and then these are the settings, quickly I'll show you, that I use currently, that Foves set up for me. Now, if you don't understand this, like I don't, I have a list of like what everything does essentially. So the sharpening is just to, I use this sharpening instead of the in-game sharpening because it just looks a little bit cleaner and it's easier for me to see things. And I think I get better stream quality as well. So I also use G-Sync. Some people don't like it, some people do. I think it feels smoother, so I use it. Power management mode is to prefer maximum performance. Texture filtering down here, you'll see, is on, so it gives the most like FPS boost without quality, degrading the quality essentially. So that's a must-have in my opinion. And then you have threaded optimization, which takes advantage of all the cores in the GPU or CPU, sorry. And then Vsync is going to make sure you have consistent and unlocked frames if you have this off. Make sure you have Vsync off. If you have it on, you might get locked at either 60 or 100 frames, whatever it might be, or 120, sorry, frames. So make sure Vsync in program settings in the Nvidia panel is off. You can copy these and try them, or you can use them as a baseline, and then just like change things and test it, blah, blah, blah. It might take a couple hours to mess with this kind of stuff, but it is so worth it in the end. The game feels so much better and it looks so much better. Okay, so before we close the control panel, next we're going to go to the change resolution tab, and we're just going to double check that you're in the right refresh rate, which is, you're going to want to be at the highest refresh rate. And then you're going to want to be in native resolution for maximum performance. I'm in 1440p, 240 hertz, the G7 monitor. This monitor is awesome. I could not recommend it anymore. Super cool. And then we have the adjust desktop color settings. So this is preference, but I use this actually instead of PostFX entirely. I use 60 brightness, 55 contrast, 120 gamma, 90 digital vibrance, and then I use my actual monitor setting on about 50% brightness just because 100% kind of flashbangs and hurts my eyes after playing for a while. But it's all preference. This is a good baseline if you want to maybe get away from using PostFX, because PostFX does actually lower performance and feels real choppy for me and many other people. So give this a try, see if you like it. It doesn't mess with your performance at all, so can't really go wrong with it, Okay, so for in-game settings, you have nothing on this page really matters, is all just preference. Then you have the automatic RAM cleaner and only use physical cores. So Foves actually has 2 programs installed that do what these are supposed to do a little bit more efficiently and better than Tarkov does itself. So there really isn't any point to use these. You can, like, I have the only physical cores checked, but I already have that covered, so it really doesn't make a difference. Moving over to graphics. I play 1440. I do, native 69 aspect ratio. If you get really bad frames, like you're playing on a laptop or something, I've even seen people use 4:3 like stretched res. It makes the game look terrible, but it does bump up frames by a ton. Full screen is typically considered the best for frames. This doesn't matter because you're going to customize all this. So texture quality, I like to use high. If you're in a lower end system, lower it, right? Shadows quality I keep low because it doesn't really look too much different, or it doesn't look better in my opinion, and that really definitely does help frame rate if you keep it on low, depending on your system. Now, object LOD quality, the sweet spot for this, you either want to have it on 2 and 1000 if you have a lower end system, or if you have a higher end, 2.5 to 1500. For reference, I have a 3080 FTW3 with a 12900K, 32 gigs of RAM. It's pretty, pimped out, one of the higher end systems that you can get. Anti-Aliasing, so what this does is if you have it on off, you will get better frames for sure. I use TAA high because it looks awesome, but if it's off, it makes your game super, like you'll see the jagged lines of everything. It looks like Minecraft. Definitely not fantastic. Resampling, I always keep this off. There's no point. This is just gonna like destroy your frames. I remember there was a 2x super sampling bug with the T7 goggles, but they fixed that. No point in using resampling. DLSS and FSR, they really only help you if you are playing on 1440, but you have a lower end GPU. So if you're playing on like a, you know, like a 1660 or something and you play 1440, DLSS might help. It does make your game look a little bit worse, so if you're in that situation, try it, but they definitely recommend, and I definitely recommend staying off of it. I remember when this dropped, everybody was hyped, but it's not good. I used to not use HBAO and SSR because they do hurt your frames a little bit, but it makes the game look so awesome, and when I'm streaming and, you know, there's a lot of people watching or whatever, I definitely want it to look good for everybody watching as well as me when I'm playing. I don't know. I like it. It makes all the water reflect and stuff, so if you got a higher end system, I definitely recommend high for HBAO and SSR. If you're lower end, I probably wouldn't use it. So then you have the Anisotropic Filtering. I hope I said that right. I keep it on per texture. It just helps, you know, smooth everything, remove like blurriness. It'll be, well, not really smooth. It helps sharpen things, so it removes blurriness. Easier to see people. So what you want to do, if you want to use Vsync, right? I have mine off because I use the G-Sync stuff. It doesn't really make a huge difference for me. But if you keep it off in the Nvidia control panel like you should, and you want to unlock your frame rate, what you want to do is check on Vsync with the reflex low latency off, right? And then turn this back on and boost. This is how you want to do it. Okay, so definitely keep it like this. And then because I use the sharpness in the Nvidia thing, I have my sharpness in-game on 0. All this stuff, don't worry about it. Just don't. Just max these two out, right? I wouldn't worry with the MIP streaming stuff. I know they just updated that. Probably still wouldn't use it. All this stuff at the bottom lowers frame rate, doesn't really make the game look better. Wouldn't touch it. Definitely don't mess with it. Now, because of all those Nvidia settings, like I said earlier, I currently don't use PostFX. When I use PostFX, this is what I use. PostFX, there really isn't any like best PostFX setting. It would only really matter if you were playing the same exact in-game time on the same exact map all the time and really dial them in. So for that reason, I just like my game ready to go all the time. I don't use them. It definitely hurts frames, definitely makes it feel more choppy. These are my volume settings if you care about that. I do use binaural right now. I know they said they're getting rid of this and coming out with something new, so I'll probably use it until then. And then my keybinds, you know, definitely don't copy these. I have weird keybinds, but just because people ask me all the time. There you go. So I'm sure you guys remember Phobes from my last video. They did all of my overclocking and all that because I simply don't understand that stuff. If I went in there and I was messing around with like, you know, whatever 0.37 and all these like speeds and stuff in my BIOS, I definitely would have bricked my PC. So cannot recommend them and their service enough. I actually just recently worked out a discount code with them for you guys if you want to get your PC tuned or get the evaluation services to see like what you would need to do to upgrade your PC to reach like certain goals. You can use code TREY24K on their website. And yeah, like I said, man, I cannot recommend them enough. I've been repping their stuff way before they even offered to sponsor me. So shout out Phobes, super, super, super helpful. And that's all I'm going to say about the overclocking stuff. I don't know enough to talk about it. I'm sure there's guides out there, so do that at your own risk for sure. But I'm not going to be the one that breaks your PC by telling you to do something that I did or they did for me, because I do not know, okay?